Is it possible that it's been a quarter of a century since you first played in the major leagues? I can't believe. Yeah, I guess I can believe it. It's on the books, isn't it?
It's every bit of that. It seems a lot longer.
Yeah. Did you think things would come as far as they have? Or did you ever think it might not work?
Well, there were times, certainly, when we thought it wouldn't work, but with the numbers of people that helped, we certainly thought that things would go as they have now, and even a lot further in terms of the front office and the managerial role and that kind of thing. But certainly baseball has grown considerably, and we're quite proud of the role that we played in it.
It's incredible now to think of a sport that big that was all non-black.
Yes.
I mean, so many black stars in baseball now.
Well, you can't even count them today. It's amazing to me. I keep reading about certain ball players, and one day I look on television, and he's black. There's no longer a mention of Joe Blow, Negro ball player, this kind of thing, which is as it should be. I think they should be judged solely on their abilities out there, and the race shouldn't have anything to do with it.
But they always used to, of course, they mentioned it for several years. It was like, and in this corner, and a credit to his race on radio. They always used to say that, and that way you knew.
Right.
No white man was ever a credit to his race on radio. It was always, always black. There must have been tough times. Well, obviously there must have been tough times, but I often wonder how you got what temper you have to have under control at times. So weren't things yelled at you?
Oh, there were a number of things, but I worked for a great guy. I don't think anybody could have done the job had it not been for Mr. Rickey. He was constantly advising and guiding, and I had so much confidence in him, I would have jumped off the bridge if he told me to do it. That's how much I believed in him. And he was a man that was sincere and dedicated and willing to lend that helping hand that's so needed today in terms of the problems that we face in everyday life. Not enough people are willing to do as Mr. Rickey did.
What advice did he give you, though, about when you get out there and somebody's going to yell? Well, what was yelled at you? What kind of things?
Well, you name them in terms of race, and they were yelled. Everything, it was quite vicious. I think it's Philadelphia Phillies, with Ben Chapman, was perhaps the most vicious of any of the people in terms of name-calling.
The team members?
Some members of the team, but there was a fellow by the name of Lee Hanley on that ball club that came down to first base when I was there and apologized for the Phillies. He just says, I just want you to know all of us don't feel that way, but it's been led by the manager, and many of the guys are doing it simply because of instructions, I would have to imagine. But it did give me a good feeling to know that in spite of what was coming out of the Philly dugout, one guy would come down and say he's awfully sorry. And actually what they did was to sort of solidify the Brooklyn Ball Club, because Mr. Rickey told me one of the things he said early was that when your ball club starts to take up for you in certain situations, our battle is most of the way won. And I think that Philly incident started the Dodgers to kind of mold as a unit.
Was that the worst, Philly?
Yes, yeah. Philly was the worst. Ben Chapman was quite vicious. He wasn't only vicious as far as black people are concerned. I think he was anti-everything. So but
where is he today?
God only knows.
But the team members, was this while you were when you came onto the field that they would yell things, or was it while the game was going on? I mean, could some of it have been just strategy to help?
Well, they thought. I'm sure that a lot of it was thought to be strategy, but it wasn't going to upset me. There was really too much to be done at that particular time in terms of breaking the baseball barrier to allow name-calling to bother me. I keep remembering what my mother told me when I was a kid, although I've always been a guy that turned back. She said something about sticks and stones will break your bones, you know, and so not to be concerned about it. Well, I didn't at the time, and fortunate for the advice that I got from Mr. Rickey and the encouragement and the guidance I got from my wife at home, we were able to withstand most of the kinds of situations that came up. We were prepared because of the numbers of people on our side. Yeah.
I've heard that some of the players since have felt guilty about not supporting you, that people have come up and said, I wish at the time I had been a little braver or something.
Well, I think Carl Erskine, who, in my opinion, probably had the most understanding of the whole situation, he was quite concerned. In Roger Kahn's book, Boys of the Summer, he points out that he would feel awfully guilty when we go into a restaurant in the South and all the white fellows would be able to go in and sit down and eat, and the rest of us would have to sit in the bus and wait for a sandwich or something to be brought out to us. And he was guilty that he didn't participate more. But when I think about guys like that, I have to think about lending a helping hand. The Pee Wee Reeses, for instance, a Southerner. And I really believe that it was the Southerner on our ball club that made the Ricky experiment much more of a success than anything else, because I'm sure that all of their lives had heard that there was a great deal of difference between blacks and whites. And when they started to associate with us and they found out that all of the things people said, that you use the same locker rooms, the same showers, the same facilities, something's going to happen, they lost that fear after a short time, and they became, I guess, as aggressive in terms of the success as anybody. Of course, I feel a little good, too, about it, Dick, because all that time was happening. Nothing was happening to me either, you know. So while they had their fears that things were going to happen to me, to them, I felt good because nothing was happening to me as well. So it made it kind of an even kind of a situation. But the whole situation in breaking the barrier was done simply because we had a purpose in mind to go out and win. And first it was Montreal, then you moved into a town like Brooklyn. And it was just fantastic way the fans responded and reacted. They were a great bunch of people, and I've always been very appreciative for the support and guidance that we got from fans as well as from Mr. Ricky and the family.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Johnson. We are here to introduce you to something we call JRS, or Jackie Robinson Syndrome, and to break it down for you so you can see our analysis behind it, and also the mindset behind the assimilation and the integration into white society, or the need to assimilate and integrate into white society. So years ago, I decided to watch the 42 movie. I don't know. I just decided to watch the 42 movie. I didn't see it when it came out. I actually saw the movie late, so I watched the 42 movie. And as I'm watching the 42 movie, and remind you, this is after I learned about Rube Foster, the man who was the energy behind the creation of the Negro Leagues. So, you know, Pat introduced me to Rube Foster. I know about Rube Foster, and I'm watching 42. And I just can't understand why Jackie Robinson chose to do that. And I'm just sitting here watching the movie because I'm just perplexed, because I know the story. It's not my first time hearing the story. We've been fed this story my whole life, ever since I was in preschool, because I've gone to all black schools my whole life. So I know Jackie Robinson's story. I'm watching this movie and I just can't understand for the likes of me why this man chose to endure what he chose to endure when black people have their own baseball league. I'm just sitting there, my face all scrunched up. I'm just like, this don't make no sense. Why would he do this? And so maybe a couple of days, maybe a week or so after watching the movie and having those thoughts as I'm watching the movie, Pat, PC, and a couple other people, we're having a conversation. And just, I'm telling them about what I'm watching, and we're all talking about it. Of course, we're talking about Rube Foster, because we believe Rube Foster should be celebrated. But that's a whole nother show. And out of that conversation, the idea came to my head or the concept of JRS, Jackie Robinson Syndrome. And basically, Jackie Robinson Syndrome is a black person who has a need to be accepted by white America so bad, a need to integrate into white America so bad that they are willing to put themselves in harm's way to be accepted or to be a part of the white person's world. It's more than just I want to be a part of white. It's I am willing to endure all of the terror and atrocities that white America can inflict upon me to show them that I am worthy of being a part of their society. So it's a deeper psychology than just wanting to be a part of white people. It's I am willing to endure any and everything that they throw at me to show them that I am worthy. And something he used in the clip, a term they used in the clip. Not only am I showing them that I am worthy, I'm showing the white America that I am a credit to my race. And so that is what Jackie Robinson Syndrome is, the black person who wants to be a part of white America so bad that they are willing to put themselves in harm's way and endure harm to prove that they are worthy of being accepted by white America. So PC, man, start with you. You saw the clip. You saw the clip.
Yeah.
You know, we already know, and the difference in this breakdown, we already know what JRS, because we created JRS. So um give one before we get to JRS, you're watching the clip. What were your
Mhm.
thoughts in watching this clip and Jackie Robinson explaining his experience transitioning from the Negro Leagues to the Major League Baseball?
Well, let me just say that uh first of all, I don't believe everybody that's black and that existed deserves to be identified as a champion or a hero just
Right.
because they partook in something, whether or not they were the first or the last or whatever. Um, Let me just say that in terms of Jackie Robinson, it was just really hard to watch. It's hard to watch a man in submission to other men, and that man is supposed to be the representation of, you in so many words. It's hard to watch his excitement around being, being identified as a testament, or what do they say?
Credit to your race.
A credit to your race. You know, it's this feeds into the inferiority complex that we talked about a few weeks ago, in which you know he didn't even see himself as an exception to the rule of and being inferior to white folk. He accepted that role in terms of being inferior. To somebody to tell you you're a credit to your race is one of the most disrespectful things they could ever tell you.
What also remember too, for a person or group of people to continue to be oppressed, they have to accept their lot in life and choose to go along with it.
Yeah, and not only did he choose to go along with it, but he also tried to find, and this is something that bothers me about a lot of black people, black folk who like to cross over into that other world. Um, Whether it's corporate America, whether it's in entertainment. I mean, we even caught Ice Cube a few months ago, talking about how race is no longer a factor in America. So when you have people who cross over into that area, it's disturbing because they're perfectly fine with being tokens. He tried to find humanity in a group of people who've never shown us any. So the whole time, and I've been telling people for a long time that Philadelphia is one of the most racist cities in the country. I've been telling people that it has not changed much since the time he played baseball here. Um,
Yeah, he did talk about Philly being one of the most racist places.
right, which he had his worst experience. The Philadelphia Phillies were the last team actually to have a black person come onto their team. I refuse to use the word Negro in this context. They were the last. They were the last team to actually have a black baseball player, and he was segregated in the North from people in his locker room, and he was treated like shit. So when I see Jackie Robinson sit there and try to laud the one white person who came up to him during his game here in Philadelphia, and try to give accolades to him, it's
Yeah,
like he was the exception to the rule. You were treated harshly. They were throwing stuff at him while he was on first base. I mean,
yeah,
they were literally, terrorizing the bus when he was here in Philadelphia. And for him to try to keep finding that shining moment, that one shining moment, speaks to the fact of how much he embraced that inferiority complex. So when I watch him talk about that, and then he tried to sort of like legitimize his struggle with the other white members of his team who would go into restaurants and go into diners when they travel, but he would have to eat his food on the bus. You know, why are you trying to sympathize with with the people who are actually being given privileged behavior in those terms? Why are you trying to find the silver lining in that hurricane? because it wasn't just a cloud, it wasn't just a storm, in that hurricane of racism. Why? And it speaks to the fact of, you know, he was chosen for his temperament. He was chosen. One of the reasons, I'm not going to say the only reason, but one of the biggest reasons he was chosen was for his temperament. Other black players refused to go, as we spoke about earlier. Other black players refused to go. He was chosen because he was going to accept it, and it just speaks to, I don't know, man. When black people get around white folk, they get happy. Like, I've seen Negroes who I remember watching Hawk Newsom, right? And I don't like throwing names out there, but he went to like the chairman of the New York chapter of Black Lives Matter. He had went to this white power rally. And when he got on stage, he was talking about, can we all just get along? He turned into Rodney King. And the thing is, you don't ask the person who's bullying you, can we get along? You push that so-and-so off your neck. And when I observed what's happening, when I observed what happened with Jackie Robinson, because he was also critical, too, of a lot of black civil rights leaders at that particular time who took a stance against racism, white supremacy. You have to really, it's because I can't relate to this dude.
But
and I go ahead.
But you got, we all have to remember that we have to critically think about the actions and the deeds and everything that goes along with black people, that white people or white America, white supremacy, that they promote, that they celebrate, that they praise. Why are they praising this person? This person had to go along with something that they had going on. So they don't just, Malcolm X does not get praised by white America at all.
No. Well, one of the things is through promotion, they want to actually socialize. This is social conditioning. They want to socialize the population of black folk who, at that particular time, black people were fighting back. You had the Deacons for Self-Defense fighting back. You had the rise of the Black Power movement that followed the civil rights struggle. You had black people who were actually fighting back at that particular time, and actually it sparked a global revolution, because once people in other countries, specifically African countries and South American countries, saw black people fighting back, they started fighting back. So they had to do something. This, along with the integration of black children into these racist concentration camps that they were putting these children into. They had to do something to start to create an image of, this is what it looks like when black folk cooperate and are in compliance with white supremacy. The biggest drawback from that I can take from it, though, is you got to have niggas that sell out to do this type of shit. And that's why I'm just going to leave it there.
So, Pat, what are your thoughts, your analysis, your breakdown of the clip before we dive deeper into JRS?
I think there were a number of things said that were very interesting to me. But one of the things that I think I'm going to be harping on repeatedly during this discussion is the need that black people have to cross over. Like, you think about everything that they said. He's a credit to his race. He's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. All of the turmoil, the brutality that he experienced, and not just him, even the people that integrated schools and all these other things. None of that would have been necessary if white people had just came around black folk. like, and I think
why didn't they do it?
Right. Like, and I think that when you analyze the conversation from that standpoint, it's like, okay, so we are engaged in a series of activities that, if white people were who we thought they were, or who we want to pretend like they are, would not be necessary. Right. Would not be. White flight wouldn't be a thing, because black kids wouldn't have had to get bused to white schools. White kids would have been perfectly fine. White parents would have been perfectly fine having their kids bust into black school. I mean, let's be clear. That is much safer than the other alternative. Like, that's a lot safer than what happened. A white player joining the Negro League would have been a lot safer than Jackie Robinson doing what he did. Like, so you start having these conversations and you saying, okay, we're repeatedly putting ourselves in harm's way. For what now? And then you go into this situation where he's like, well, I think me going through what I went through, especially in Philly, really kind of bonded us as a team. No, I didn't. Because if those white people were as open and amicable to the plight of black people, you wouldn't have needed to join their team, and they wouldn't have needed to see you being brutalized before they was like, hey, maybe we should not do this. Oh no, let's stop. No.
But that bonding though, okay, because as a former athlete, I understand that bonding can be real and it can be superficial. You don't create a true bond with everybody on your team. And the bond that is created between the players, it's for the common goal of the win, of winning, of having a good team up to win. It's nothing more, nothing less for the most part, unless you actually create a real friendship with somebody. Outside of that, think of people who played sports. Think about how many people that you played with that you don't even know you don't even know if they exist right now. So much for the brotherhood, right?
No, we should not be doing this. We had better stand up for our teammate so that he gets treated like a human. See me, history books? Look at me. I am on the right side of history.
And it was all bullshit.
I mean, look. I just when I'm listening to the clip, and Pat, my bad, Pat, were you done? Because you were
No,
talking.
I had one other thing that I wanted to say before, because, and this, because I know we're gonna hit on a lot of stuff. When I talk about JRS during this show, I'm not speaking on it from a perspective of let's all attack Jackie Robinson. Like, the goal is to understand that this is a particular way of thinking that he has, that a lot of us have, and those people that have this honestly think they're doing what's best. And we need to be critical and think about whether or not that is actually the best way for us to progress forward. So it's not an attack on Jackie Robinson. I'm not going to sit here and say that he wasn't a man or anything like that. I'm going to say that I strongly disagree with his worldview, and I think his worldview is extremely harmful and detrimental to black people. I will say that, but I'm not attacking him as a human being or as a person, because he was willing to put himself in harm's way to sit next to, I mean, to make differences in the global community. And I gotta at least on the shoulders of giants, I gotta pretend like I respect that.
Hey, you don't got to use me for no pretending springboard, because hell, I made it up. So,
but the funny part about that is, because I am going to attack him, and it's just because of what Patrick said. Though he created a dangerous situation for black people. He created a condition that sort of like retarded the progress that black people was trying to make in terms of just being able to just live and coexist in a society that was dominated by white supremacy. And when you create those types of stigmas, and when you create that, when you are aiding and abetting in the social engineering of your people. And when people were protesting those things, he had some harsh words to say for black people who questioned whether or not he should be doing what he did. He also is, when you think about the standard he set, he showed black people that, listen, if we join white forces, we can destroy our own shit.
White
and
ice
it
is
should be
cold.
okay. Right. Not only is white ice colder, let's abandon even the process of making black ice so that we can get in on this white ice. And when you look at the lies, I mean, that permeated to my generation. So instead of, my grandfather was an auto mechanic here in Philadelphia. He owned his own auto garage. I worked in that garage as a high school student. I learned how to work on cars, drop engines, plug in transmissions and change the oil and rotate tires and change brakes and all those different things. I learned that in my grandfather's garage as a 17-year-old, 18 or 16 and 17-year-old. But when I went to college, I fell under the same spell that Dr. Carter G. Woodson warned us about, where
Me too.
I didn't want to be, and my grandfather asked me to. So it's something I still regret to this day. My grandfather asked me to join his business. He asked me to take his business over as he got older, and he was too old to actually keep the business running. But I fed into this whole white collar shit. I fed into this whole, I have a college degree. What am I going to be doing this now? I fed into all of those different things. And feeding into those different things, the business, he had to sell the business. Now, what are we talking about later on? While we need more black businesses, we need to be investing in black businesses and black entrepreneurship now. Everybody's out there getting a LLC and this, that, and the other. Here, I had one that was going to be passed down to me, but because I suffered from JRS syndrome, I thought getting my foot in the door in corporate America was going to change my condition, and I was going to be an upstanding and white collar working leader of my community. Turns out I was just a freaking worker, working for somebody else, helping white corporations make millions upon millions of dollars. So that's
All
the
right,
damage.
PC, you win. Fuck them.
I'm just saying that's the damage of that type of thinking. And then when you still trying to, it's like the dog apologizing to his master for the master setting the dog on fire because because the master fed the dog and pet the dog later on.
Yeah.
It's like for him to sit there and try to legitimize and humanize all these white folk who really didn't give a damn about him. They cared more about the team winning than him. And they realized that they needed him to function in a certain way because politically he wasn't going anywhere. So they had to bite that bullet in the locker room for him. But even as he said, when they would go out to eat, they still left his ass on the bus. They didn't protest these restaurants and diners for him to come in and sit with them. And he was a damn star player of the football, of the baseball team at the time. So,
well, he said out of his mouth, and I'm sure it has more than just the meaning of what he said, but the purpose of breaking the color barrier was to win. I'm taking that as to win baseball games, but also win a place in white America as well, right? So going back to the video, one of the first things that stood out to me was his tone of voice, his tonation. It, like we said earlier, it sounded very safe and it sounded very white. The tone of voice, how he was using his tone of voice, not the fact that he can articulate his words. We know black people can articulate, but the tone of voice, how he sounded, it's that safe tone of voice. It was almost like the voice that Dave Chappelle imitates when he imitates the voice that Dave Chappelle uses when he imitates white people. No, it was very close to that, or almost exactly to that, right? And so also looking at, like we said earlier, he was the first black baseball player to accept the offer to leave the Negro leagues to go to the Major League Baseball. But like we're all getting into, it's the mindset behind it. JRS, we named it JRS based off of the movie, why me watching the movie and everything, but it's a assimilation mind, it's an extreme assimilation mindset. And so there are a lot, like PC said, there are a lot of people who have JRS. We've had JRS at a point in time because, once again, like you said, we've been conditioned by the institutions that we've been in. But it was to win. It was, he said, the purpose of breaking the color barrier was to win. And so a part of that was having more black players in Major League Baseball. Now let me read you this. This is from USA Today, usatoday.com. Bob Nightingale. MLB's percentage of black players is the lowest since 1955. What's baseball doing to fix that? The cold hard numbers are shocking to the sense, but Major League Baseball and the Players Alliance refuse to be deterred, believing progress is being made, convinced that change is coming. But oh man, while fully committed, stopping the erosion of black players in baseball, their patience certainly is being tested. Major League Baseball is celebrating Jackie Robinson Day around the country Saturday, the anniversary of Robinson breaking the color barrier on April 15, 1947. It's kind of ironic it's in this article, but with everyone wearing number 42 in honor of Robinson, a historic low number of players on the field will actually be black. Only 6.1 players on this year's opening day rosters are black, and that's this year's opening day roster of 2023. 6.1 are black. 58 out of 945 players on the active, injured, or restricted list, the smallest percentage since 1955, according to a USA Today study. The last time MLB had a lower percentage of African-American players was when the league was 89.8% white in 1955. So one of the lowest points ever. A color barrier was broken, so only a small percentage of black players would still be allowed into the major leagues to this day, while the Negro League no longer exists. The mindset behind that, I'm going to leave my league to go to this league because I believe this is a better place, and I want to help bring social justice, because black people having their own is not a part of social justice. Because remember, this JRS is not just about him. Think about all of the people at the sit-ins. I remember having a conversation with my mom. It just popped back in my head, having a conversation with my mom. She telling me about when she was a teenager or a college student at FAMU. She went home to Gainesville, or before she went to college, they was in Gainesville, and how they did sit-ins and marches and things. And I was like, this is when I was like in a younger age, and I was just more in my wild young stage of learning information. But I was asking her, why did they feel it was more important to integrate white diners than build or support more black diners? And she didn't really have an answer, but it was the mindset, it was the narrative, it was the energy at the time for a lot of black people in America, is we have to be a part of this white space. But remember, JRS is taking it to the extreme. I'm willing to put myself in harm's way to be in this white place, and not just be in this place, but be accepted in this place.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to add on another little tidbit, you know, then you got Xavier's disease, which is taking it to an even further extreme, but that's another conversation. But I want to say that because we don't need y'all diagnosing everybody with JRS. One, you don't diagnose nobody. You're not a trained professional. The three of us are only trained professionals in diagnosis of JRS in the whole entire world.
And you have to get trained from us.
Second off, everybody you come across don't have JRS. Some of them have, you know, something that's worse. So, you know, let's keep that in mind too. Like, you know, you just learn something new. Don't go out there and make everything be everybody ain't a narcissist. All right.
You go. You know, it's crazy because I have my own dredgings about why black folk decided that civil rights movement would move. First and foremost, it was co-opted, you know, and because it started off a lot more militant, but it was co-opted, and I'll just leave it at there for now. But you know, Dr. King had well, he had a dream. He was the protege, and I'm damn it, the name. I don't know why I be having these brain farts sometimes, but the brother that started sponsoring his push changed his dynamics, because before Dr. King had guns in the house. Like, He used to have pistols in the couch. You know, reporters would come out to do stories, and they'd be sitting on pistols. He'd be like, "Man, I'm in Alabama, man. I'm in the South." So, you know, and that movement got damn it, the name keeps slipping my mind. I'm not gonna stay on it too long. But you also had a situation where black people were sort of like beaten into submission. Black people did try to start their own communities in these places, and they were terrorized beyond anything we see today. Anything you want to talk about Al Qaeda, you want to talk about 9/11, it is nothing compared to the terrorism the black folk had. I mean, you have all those different times when black folks had towns that were burnt down, were flooded, the
Yeah.
summer of 1919. Um, when a
Benjamin
very
Mays, that's who you was talking about.
no. It was I'll find them before the show's up.
I googled Martin Luther King mentor, so that's why I said.
Yeah, yeah, that was his. I think that was the pastor that brought Dr. King in. But it was another brother, powerful brother, by the way. He actually debated Malcolm X on one
Bayard
occasion.
Rustin.
Bayard Rustin, there you go.
Okay, that's what I
So
thought you were talking about the first time.
yeah, Bayard Rustin was the one who sort of switched gears and made this nonviolent civil disobedient push for integration, rather than just civil rights, where they were actually showing up. Black folk were actually showing up, saying we demand to be treated like human beings. It wasn't even really called the civil rights movement at that time, I don't believe. But so you had a lot of brothers and sisters who were terrorized. So they didn't want their children to go through that shit. They escaped those townships and moved to other towns and so forth. And so, you know, it was one of those things where they seen how savage white folk can be, and they didn't want their children to deal with it. Um, and so they sort of raised their children to be more submissive, which did not help in the long run because the children were just as rebellious. But I mean, they were even more rebellious actually. But they decided to move in those directions because the leadership was painted in that direction, which is one of the reasons why people like Stokely Carmichael got fed up and snicked and decided that they were going to start screaming Black Power, and they were going to expel all the white members of their group because they realized they were not interested in building coalitions with white folk. So you had a lot of that going on at that particular time. But what you really, when you start off with in terms of Jackie Robinson, that interview, that was like the dog whistling of code switching. And when black people start talking with that nasally voice, see, we talk with a bellow. It comes from down here when we speak, and we can enunciate our words. We can speak it properly. But when you speak it like this, especially as a black man, it's intimidating to white folk because now they don't know whether or not you about to fight, and they have to deal with their fight or flee, you know, psychosis that comes with that because they know they're owed an ass whooping. They just don't know the time of the day. That's why every time you see black people somewhere reading, white folk are trying to figure what the hell is he reading because they don't know whether we're reading their instructional manual into whipping their ass. So, um, um, but when you talk like this, you're less threatening because you're not masculine.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Thomas?
Oh, what I mean is, when you talk like this, I just want you to know that I come in peace. I'm harmless. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I want to speak like this. So even the most that's going to happen is an articulate display of battling, you know, verbally. And we're going to have experience some verbal gymnastics, but we're not really going to say too much shit because if I talk like this, then it's going to be a problem in here. Y'all going to need security. So,
but two things. One, Pat brings this up a lot about Ruby Bridges. And Ruby Bridges didn't have JRS. Her parents did.
Right.
Because they forced a young girl to go be terrorized by white supremacists every day.
Not a young girl. Their young girl. That's even worse.
Their young girl to do that, right? And so also you talk about the voice thing. When I was working at the health department, we had our supervisor, Mr. Leroy. Rest in peace, Mr. Leroy. He was a 6'2", 6'3", 300-pound, dark-skinned black man with a heavy ass voice. His voice was 3 times deeper than mine, and he couldn't help. And he was country too, so he couldn't help but be loud. And so he scared those white women. When he talked, they would jump and stuff like that. But then you had other cats from other departments and you know, they were a lot more safe. They were a lot more flamboyant, and the voice were a lot lower, and it was a lot more nasally. It was more pleasing. And so, like we're saying, the presentation, the temperament, because we talked about the temperament, but he also talked about being protected by his managers and his teammates eventually, but the temperament had to be there. If you remember from the movie, and I'm not saying the movie is historically accurate on everything, but if you remember from the movie, the I guess you could say the protection or the help from the team didn't come until his combativeness was waned. Until when he got to a point to where, okay, I'm not going to fight back no more. My temperament has changed. I'm calmed down. I'm not going to defend myself physically. That's when they started really embracing him a lot more over time. So we had to remember that. If he was still fighting back, would they really have had his back for the little amount of having his back that they had?
Can I go back to something you said before that though?
Go
real
ahead.
quick? Because let me tell you, those white women were full of shit. When they play that, because I get sick and tired of the tough cookie that becomes a damsel in distress. They understand historically about how making a black man seem threatening can undermine and actually destroy. They use that as the method of to control and destroy black men. And this was something that they had done. And this is why I get on black feminists, because they use these same talking points. This is something that was done during the beginnings of Jim Crow, when they would create these comic strips in newspapers because these cats couldn't read, and they would create these comic strips that would have black men as big as werewolves and gorillas with their arms, the pre-King Kong image that eventually became King Kong. They would have black men identified as that and scary, and it was always about the rise. In fact, the movie, the book, The Klansman, that became the movie, The Birth of a Nation, was actually derived with that same concept of these white knights coming in to defend the honor of white women who were being terrorized, brutally raped,
over sex, over drugs,
by black men. And so when they play on that, this is them doing their dog whistle to alert white men and others around them that they must be protected from these savage black beasts. So when I hear about how white women responded to black men, I see that shit on a daily basis, working on a college campus. I get so tired, I'd be ready to throw somebody down the fucking stairs. So now you can have a real reason to be afraid of me. So, so I just wanted to get that out in terms of that part. Pat, if you want to jump on the other part, I'll come back in. I just want, because
no, go ahead.
So, in regards to Jackie Robinson, like, and his teammates coming into, because I didn't watch the movie. I was about to watch the movie. Then we started talking about JRS, and I said I don't even want to see that shit. So I haven't even watched the movie. But one of the things that speaks to is the fact that it's like watching a lion come and a lion, how ferocious a lion is in his own domain as he's walking the plains, and I think you bring a lion into captivity, and after a while the lion's beating on the gates and snatching the raw meat off of somebody's hand, and then after a while the lion just realizes defeated, and you see the shell of a lion. So those white men had to see the shell of a human being, a shell of a black man before jumping in and rescuing him like he was a damsel in distress, which is one of the things that, historically speaking, I think Wesley Muhammad even spoke on this in one of Tariq Nasheed's movies, where I think Buck Breaking, when he talked about the fact that black men have been seen as the female of all of the different races of the world. So all the other races of the world are allowed to have men, but black men are seen as the feminine version of masculinity by all the other men. And that's what that speaks to. So even the people making the film were able to capture that moment, the essence of that message, and transfer it to the point where, when people see the movie, it becomes the historical, context in which they refer to. I had a bunch of children tell me when, I'm giving them the history on Harriet Tubman. Well, they watched the movie. They said that didn't happen in the movie, so what you're saying is not real. And see, That's the type of imprint they do with the media in terms of creating these images, which is more reason why what Jackie Robinson did and what he became was dangerous. Because if you're going to be
Propaganda.
that person, that individual, now your story is going to be told by people who didn't witness it firsthand for future generations, so you can social engineer them as well.
Also, their story is told from the lens of those who were in Major League Baseball and not from the lens of those who are in the Negro Leagues, because we still do not talk about the Negro Leagues. Because like you said, like one of you said earlier, we're in this time and space where Black people are promoting and championing us owning our own businesses, us owning our own industries, us owning our own corporations. Well, why are we celebrating, or why do we champion a man who helped lead the downfall of our own thing? Why don't we? Well, and I know the answer to this question because we're insane, but we do not celebrate Rube Foster. We do not celebrate the other men that helped him create the Negro League. We do not celebrate the people in the Negro Leagues. Josh Gibson gets celebrated in comparison to Babe Ruth. Satchel Paige only gets recognition because of what he did in the Major League Baseball, even though Satchel Paige went to Major League Baseball at the age of 42. So he had a whole career in Negro League and was balling out in Negro League. And remember, the Negro League was better than the Major League Baseball. It was more people in attendance at a Negro League game than it was in the Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, same thing like college football. They realized that we need to get some of them Negroes over here because we got more people going over there watching those games. The economics is going over there. We need to get this economics back over here. It's warfare. It's people understanding racism versus people who don't understand racism. People who understand the group team dynamics versus people who don't. Jackie Robinson, let's like me when I was young, and like a lot of people in that time, well, in that space, a lack of understanding of racism. When you don't understand racism, you think that he thought that he was going to help further harmony and justice and help improve the racial relations in America. But hindsight 2020, it didn't help a bit. It didn't help a bit. It helped Major League Baseball get more money, but it didn't help a bit. Remember, 6.1% of Black players today are in Major League Baseball. Go ahead, Pat.
No, I think, and I think to add another perspective to it is because I've never been one to say Black people shouldn't, or that Jackie Robinson shouldn't be praised and shouldn't be championed and remembered. I've just been one to say that it shouldn't be by Black people. Like, and I say that because we tend to take things like this, and now all of a sudden Black people are having this confrontation about what do we do about Jackie Robinson. We don't do nothing about Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson deserves all the praise and adoration he gets from white people because everything he did benefited them.
Right.
So why shouldn't they recognize their historic figures, even if they do happen to be Negroes? I think the problem we have here is that we tend to worship and praise and remember everybody that they do. And that is my biggest problem with a lot of how we talk about a lot of this stuff. Even Ruby Bridges, not even just her and all her family, all of those, I was the first. Like the reason people remember the reason white people remember W.B. Du Bois should be distinctly different from the reason we remember him. They can remember him as the first PhD from Harvard. That's fine. It's great for them. That don't mean shit to us. We remember the double consciousness theories. We remember the social work that he did in terms of researching and understanding what's going on in America on a social level, a cultural level. You know, we remember those things. You know, the same with James Brown. So many black people were upset about the James Brown movie, which ironically was played by the same dude that played Jackie Robinson. But so many people were so upset about the James Brown movie, and you look at it, you say, why were they upset? Well, they were upset because they made it a movie about music. Well, it was white people made the movie. That's all James Brown was to them. Somebody that made music. If you want a movie about James Brown that talks about his social impact and how culturally inspiring his music was and the impact of songs like I'm Black and I'm Proud, guess what? A white person ain't gonna make that movie because they don't resonate with that. What you would get is a crazy ass movie that has more semblance to Woman King than anything that has anything to do with actual black significance. And I
What
use that for an example. Go ahead.
what movie that was made by white America about black people who've contributed in some kind of way to either white America or black America? What movie have they made about them where they haven't looked to only only highlight the artistic or the stuff that we value? So being an athlete, entertainer, or a musician, and they also their vice, their addictions, their downfalls, the things that were bad about them. Like we didn't know about, well, I didn't know about Ray Charles's drug addiction until the Ray Charles movie. You know, and so when we see these movies, we start to look at our people different. Even going back to something we said earlier, we are expecting people who are our oppressors to tell our stories the correct way and be able to use our stories to really uplift and empower us. Look at the self-made movie. I'm still not over that, but I'm over it, but I'm not over because I thought it was bullshit. But I thought more so it was the bullshit, is black people's reaction to really believing it was true. But Annie Malone was demonized in that movie to make Madam C.J. Walker look good in the movie.
Y'all
And
always have a villain.
huh?
Black folk always got to have a villain. Usually, it's a white savior.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, talking to people about the movie, because I know a lot of people ask me about the movie, and I was like, I ain't like that. I forgot how they changed the name, but I didn't, the Addie, whatever. I didn't like her. I didn't like her. I didn't like her character. I didn't like this lady, this and this and that. And then I had to break down the story. I was like, no, this lady didn't do that to Madam C.J. Walker. If it wasn't for this lady, we wouldn't know Madam C.J. Walker. It would be no black hair care industry. And so it's the understanding of the use of propaganda. We have to understand that. We have to have a better understanding of racism. If you don't understand racism, you need to read and you need to study. You need to study Amos Wilson. You need to study Dr. Francis Chris Wilson. You need to study Neely Fuller. You need to study John Henry Clark. You need to study Yusuf Ben Yakinis. You need to study. It's a lot of people you need to study to really get a full understanding of what racism is and how it affected us psychologically, how it shifted and degraded the black mind.
Or you could accept the fact that understanding racism ain't in your lane.
Well, stop complaining about it.
Right, like that, like, because this is the thing, right? Everybody thinks just because I'm black, I got a voice to speak out. If you aren't studied, you don't have a voice. You being black don't give you that. Like, stop it.
Well, I hear you, but it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't just complain about something and not want to do something about it.
Yeah,
Well, you got to learn about it first.
right. If you're not gonna do the legwork to learn and understand what things are and why they are that way, then don't try to get in conversations with those people that have learned because
But
you're not equipped.
you need to be able, you need to be humble enough to shut your mouth and learn. Like
But
if you know you don't know.
that's
'Cause
why I say I'm not even gonna give them the look. You know what you need to do if you're interested in this shit. If Joe telling you who to study is like something that's like mind blowing for you, you don't need to be in these conversations.
well, let's just be real. We know a lot of black community, no matter what subsector they are in the black community. We can look at these YouTube videos, these TikTok videos, Instagram videos, these people saying the most off the wall stuff who are black, saying the most off the wall stuff, things that, and remember, you can't research these things and verify these things because they came to them in dreams and through the ether. So people be believing that stuff. So that's a part of that psychological deterioration that we have as black people. We believe anything. We're very, very gullible people, especially when somebody is their presentation is pro-black or the presentation is extra Christian. We're very, very, very gullible to the grifting and the scams and everything that could come to that person. That person can say anything and they'll believe them. Hey man, such and such said it's aliens outside on Tuesday at 7:30. All you got to do a flip this way, do a flip that way, and go eat a Popeye's biscuit.
Joe. Because all you got to do is get all the black people in the country to stop spending their money on Tuesday, and by Wednesday we'll have white supremacy on its knees. You know, that's one of the biggest issues is Negroes. I just think the fight has been beaten out of Negroes, and now they want a quick, fast solution to this so that they can get back to their freestyle life, the life of leisure. I mean, we don't really practice these things from an adult perspective. And as we always say, we're dealing with arrested development when it comes to it. So you think about the attention span of a child. That's what black people are when it comes to actually getting grounded and learning and getting frustrated because it's a pit. You to learn some shit, you got to actually spend some time and study. And you know that in itself is too long of a process. We need shortcuts. So instead of reading a book, I'm going to listen to somebody for 30 seconds on TikTok give me historical facts that might not be true. I'm going to listen to some people tell me about all these different things that black people are doing that nobody can verify. I'm going to listen to all these people. And when I say racism is a figment of our imagination because I'm terrified by white folk, and my cognitive dissonance doesn't allow me to accept the fact that, you know, we're in a war right now where they've been warring on us because for us to be in a war, we have to be actually fighting back. And the only people we've been conditioned to fight is each other. We refuse to understand the creation of the slave mindset from, you know, the slave making plantations on Barbados, you know, to which they determined, you know, is one of the things they did prior to Willie Lynch to actually create the perfect slave. And we don't even really study Willie Lynch. We're trying to say Willie Lynch never existed as a person rather than analyzing what the syndrome actually did and what it does to this day. See, we got all these different things, and most importantly, there's a little bit of JRS in all of this. It's just those of us who recognize this. See, we're the experts on JRS. So therefore, we actually see past it. We've actually put on the glasses that see they live. You know what I'm saying? The rest of the people in the world is just hearing this for the first time. Now they got to get their study on. So they can become experts too. But they have to get their study on, be able to fully analyze the process of this and how much damage has occurred and how much of them they have to expel this out. There needs to be an exorcism of JRS syndrome from all of us. We need to have the blackest priest, maybe that history teacher you were talking about earlier, Joe. You know, a brother with a voice like that's going to scare the bejesus and scare the white girl out of us. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to be in the right mindset to accept the things that need to be done. Yeah. But just like I said last week, man, I don't have a lot of faith that this shit is going to happen. This is entertainment to most people.
I mean, JRS is a symptom of what term you used? The arrested development. JRS is a symptom of the Negro mindset. JRS is a symptom of black people of us deteriorating mentally and psychologically as a people. So because of that, you get an inferiority complex. And out of that inferiority complex, it comes a need to be integrated to and accepted by white America. JRS.
You know something else too, now that I think about that piece, because this is the first time we actually seen the actual interview. Like seeing that
talk about it.
Yeah, because you know, before we just heard the audio, but he was childlike in that particular situation. It was almost like talking to his father.
Meek, humble.
Yeah, he was very, very safe.
Right, but you know, from the perspective of I hopefully I'll make my father proud, and his father was the man sitting across from him, and you know, we always joke about white zaddy and this, that, and the other, but this was like a literal inference to what that actually looks like in the flesh. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just like wow, seeing that unfold. And and I've been in situations where a white man will come into the room and all the black people will change their tone. Um, Pat Talk, when we first met on Blog Talk Radio, there was a white woman who tried to join our chats and discussions. And she was talking about how she's an ally to the black community, this and the black community that. And we found out through some investigation that one of the reasons why she was an ally is because she was rejected by her own community. And when she asked if she could join any of our pushes, I flatly said no, you cannot. And it's not just because you're only doing this as a rebellion against your community, but I'm afraid of how black people are going to respond. Because even on that call we were on, black people on that phone, on that call, Block Talk, who the week before was talking about burning this country down, was really measured and very careful when this white woman just ended the phone. And she wasn't the most literate person either. In fact, we were talking about the fact that she suffered from a mental disability. So she wasn't even articulating any valid points on this particular call. And so we still have not, as a whole, gotten past that. I was in Mississippi one time during a so-called summit, room full of black folk. This white man begged his way into the room, and when he came into the room, he became the center of the conversation. The hundreds of black people that was in the room became irrelevant because this white man was the one that all the people on the panel had to impress, and it was
Hey,
sickening. So, you
yeah.
know, it was just interesting to watch that because I kind of had like I think I might have PTSD by seeing that play right there, man. It's crazy.
So when I was preparing this video, before I found this clip, I was looking for a modern day example of JRS. Um, Kanye West popped up. And Kanye West, in relation to the Jewish community, Kanye wanted to be a part of the Jewish community. They shunned him. Now, Kanye does have JRS, but his reaction to it was different. Kanye went on a tirade against the Jewish community and messed around and got himself messed up. He's still putting himself in harm's way to be accepted. Because at the end of the day, if the Jewish community opened their arms and accepted Kanye, he would go and run to them. And so I was looking at some kind of one of the video clips, and it was him explaining why he wore the White Lives Matter shirt, and I was just like, this is JRS just written all over this guy. Like he's looking for a group of people to accept him. And then he's always complaining about the music industry. He's always complaining about the groups of people who he's killing himself to try to be a part of. And it's like, especially when we talk about rappers being slaves and artists being all these things, and like, yeah, but y'all have the means to create your own lane. Y'all have the following, y'all have the talent, you all have money. Why don't you create your own for yourselves? But it's the JRS, it's the need to be accepted by white people. And I have a need so bad that in Kanye's case, I have a need to be accepted so bad, I'm willing to ruin my reputation and hurt my business to be accepted by white folk.
And that might be something we have to have a professional panel on, because I think Kanye West got Xavier's disease.
I mean, Xavier's disease is an advanced form of JRS.
It is. That's why I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying we need to have a professional panel to because he might be the first diagnosed case of Xavier's disease
Okay,
in a long time.
So we the panel, so who gonna moderate it? Because we the professionals on Xavier's disease and JRS. So
I mean, it ain't got to be a moderation. I mean, the criteria, we know he meet the criteria for JRS, right? But for Xavier's disease, we just take it one step further. Is he doing things that directly combats the progression of his people,
And put them
or
in
the
harm's way.
people that look like him, for the benefit of this other group?
yeah, that would need to be critically assessed because I'm gonna be real. When you say it like that off top, I'm like no, and then maybe, and
Right. It's a
so it does need to
conversation.
be critically assessed because you can't just say Kanye has Xavier's disease. No, you can say he got JRS because he
Oh yeah,
fit
he got
criteria,
JRS. Yeah, he
but
got
you can't say
JRS.
Kanye has Xavier's disease just off top. It does have to be broken down. So yeah,
Right.
What about Ben
yeah.
Carson?
Oh, Xavier.
Now I don't know, because if you could just flip Carson like
Well,
Kanye and Carson,
yeah,
it ain't a big gap.
yeah, because Xavier's are like drug dealers. Like drug dealers have Xavier's disease. Like some of these rappers have Xavier's disease and they don't even know it because their behavior in that content is directly detrimental to the community. So
Yeah, right. Like they are waging direct combat against their own community for the benefit of another community.
right, right. Yeah. So it would have to be debated for both Kanye and Ben Carson, but not for drug dealers and stuff like that.
No. Drug dealers, but you know what? Drug dealers fall under well, everybody falls under
Sambo.
Rule 12.
Sambo, yeah.
So yeah, see you tell I like Rule 12 because it make it sound spicy.
Official.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
you
Yeah,
under
like,
Rule 12.
yeah, hey, bro.
What's Rule 12? I ain't
Right.
no, I don't want to be under Rule 12.
Yeah, you be like, hey, bro, you a 12. What's that? Yeah.
Yeah.
We ain't talking about law enforcement. You a 12.
Right. So, but introduce y'all to JRS, and we have a lot of other concepts and things that we've come up with over the years. But Jackie Robinson syndrome, remember, it's a Black person that has a need to be accepted and assimilated and integrated into white society so bad that that person is willing to put themselves in harm's way to be accepted and acknowledged by white people. So let's free ourselves. All right. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, FetLifeStation.com, FetLifeStation.com, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Tune in, PC. Gonna be going in like he always go in. So make it happen, make it snapping, and make it happen. Out of here.